Good morning. Welcome back to another Facebook Live session with UCSI International School in KL. I'm Amy and we're here with Ciaran McGowan. Sorry. Could you tell us a little more about yourself and your role at UCSI?
Sure. So I want to say hello to all our viewers and to all the parents. So my name is Ciaran. I'm from Northern Ireland in the United Kingdom, small country, and my job at UCSI, I'll be the history, geography, and the business studies teacher up to GCSE this year.
So a little bit of everything.
Good at everything.
Yeah, we talked to Ciaran last week, but we're going to go into a little more depth this week about some of the topics and skills that your students will be learning. Can you first give us a little insight into what other teaching experience you have and how you got into teaching in the first place?
Well, I've met a lot of inspirational people in my time. Some uninspiring people, but mostly inspirational people, especially my teachers at school. And I remember being at school in secondary school, and I've been especially inspired by my history teacher as well. I've had two history teachers there, and both are absolutely amazing. If the lesson I look forward to the most, subjects I would obviously do my best. I wasn't very excited by other subjects. I was so excited to get to the lesson. I was lined up outside. I was always, you can see kind of the energy and enthusiasm in the class. And in the class, you didn't realize you were learning because you were enjoying yourself so much. And I could just see kind of the rapport, not just with the teacher, but with my classmates as well, and the rapport my teachers had with them as well. And I thought that's such an amazing job. That looks so cool to me. From it says like 13, 14 thing, that looks so cool. I'd love to do that. And so yeah, I thought, and as I passed through, sixth form college, did my A levels obviously, through university as well. I met a lot of really inspirational teachers or people that really like built up confidence in myself, and I thought this is like a noble profession as well. You feel the teacher's making a difference to your life. So I felt this is just really amazing. You get to teach all these amazing people, and you also get to almost like shape people's lives and outlook, if only for a short time. Sometimes we meet students for a year, 2 years. But yeah, I just thought that's really exciting thing to actually do. And I've never actually done any job in my life except teaching. So I went straight from university to do my postgraduate in secondary education. So I've been teaching pretty much my entire life. The first 4 or 5 years I worked in the UK, worked quite near to London, teaching humanities, like the bug for working overseas. I worked in places like international schools in Kiev, in Ukraine, in Cairo, in Egypt, in Moscow, and also I was in Russia, in Bucharest. I spent 9 years in two very good international schools in Romania. And then, of course, the call of Malaysia came, and I've worked in 2 international schools here for just around 4 years. One in Tropicana, Amman, and another one in Cyberjaya. So in each school I've taught, humanities up to A level.
Yeah. So how do you feel about working for this school, which hasn't even begun yet? It's brand new, just getting off the ground.
Well, that's part of the excitement, I think, because sometimes it's like a new adventure, a new journey. You don't really know where it's going, but you have all these like exciting hopes at the start. And it is really exciting, the idea of building a school up. I mean, these students, when they come to the school, will be the first faces they see. Happy, smiling faces, welcoming them. And that is really exciting, the idea that you can start off relatively small numbers and just see it grow every single year until we hopefully a massive student body. And my previous school actually was also a new school, so I was one of the first teachers in that school as well, one of the founding members as well. We only started with around 58 students at the time. And yeah, it's really exciting. The students, for example, they only know you. So they only knew me as a history teacher all the time, or the geography teacher. So it's really exciting starting. It feels like a new adventure. It also feels like it reinvigorates us as people as well, because it's like not going to something that's really established. You're going there and you're building it up yourself, almost like in your image or mold. So yeah, it's really exciting opportunity.
Yeah, and it really makes you think about what are the priorities and the values that you want to start with.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like you have some really great experience for, not just teaching your subject, but also for being a part of the school and helping to build it up.
Yeah, I've been very lucky.
Sounds great. So tell me a little more about what humanities is. And, we gave kind of an overview last time, but if you could just briefly explain and then go into a little bit about the topics you're planning to teach.
Sure. Humanities, I mean, some people know the social sciences, some call it humanities, some people just do it as history, geography, or so on. So humanities is a collection of subjects, and it includes what I'll be teaching: history, geography, and business studies. It will, from the name itself, humanities basically deals with people and how we interact with our world, interact with each other, not just in terms of history, but also how we interact with our environment as well. So that is kind of what the subject actually is. So students will also study lots of different things, and obviously each topic. So my three subjects, as I just mentioned, are history, geography, and business study. I'll start with business studies. It is how it sounds. It's a study of the business world. It's really popular with students and parents in Malaysia. And again, what would they be doing? Just a brief overview. How businesses are run, the role of people in businesses, how we make businesses a success, but also what are the things that cause businesses sometimes not to be a success as well, and where to locate business and so on. And I think that is really, it's really attractive to a lot of our students and parents. They want to work in businesses, they want to be CEOs, they want to know what the role of them. So that's business studies. History, they cover around 1,000 years, from year 7 to year 9. We cover from around the 11th century up until the end of the 20th century. Some maybe, if we get to it, the start of the 21st century history. And we cover all the main events. And it's not, I know we're a British international school, but it's really truly international. So we just don't do British history. So we do a bit of British, we do American history as well. There's some Asian history as well. So, and some African history as well. So it's very, very, international in its approach. And it's the same for the geography as well. It's completely international in its approach. So again, we cover physical geography and human geography. Physical geography is about studying the world and how it works. Earthquakes, volcanoes, oceans, rivers, coasts, weather, that type of thing. Yeah. The human geography is really about how we interact with each other and the environment, and our effects on the environment and on each other around the world, such as trade, food, migration, population, and so on as well. And
it's interesting that you're doing both business studies and humanities, because some people would say, well, I want to be a businessman, I don't need to learn humanities, I'll just take business studies. Well, what would you say to that?
I would say, listen to me right now. I think it is true to an extent that I think that a lot of people, history and geography especially, are optional subjects. In some schools, business studies is optional. In some schools, it's actually compulsory. So my previous schools, it was compulsory at GCSE level. So it does differ from school to school. Here's optional. Some people think that, well, history, well, I'm interested in that. I quite like that. And geography, I'm quite interested in that. But then they move on to GCSE A level and they choose things like business studies or the sciences or the English. And I often say that, to me, firstly, history and geography are the two best and business studies, of course, are the best subjects in the school. But I would also say that the skills you develop in both subjects are so that you would apply to almost every element of your life as well. And I know we talked about this a little bit last week as well, the fact that in history, you develop some things that you deal with, things like your analytical skills, your ability to construct arguments, your ability to debate people and so on as well, to justify your arguments as well, to identify bias, to maybe explain why is this person who's telling me something, why are they telling me the truth not. I think that just applies to everyday life, everywhere. Every person we meet has a different opinion, has an interpretation, and I think it's important where we can use our critical thinking skills, our analytical skills to kind of work these things out. And it's in a world with so much technology, so much, corporate media, so much new media, so much internet news and so on. It's really important that we use our thinking skills and analytical skills to see who can we trust, who can we not trust, and why as well. The same for geography as well. I just don't think it's important to know why earthquakes happen. It's important to know why we have refugee movements. I think that's really important for understanding the world and cultures around us. But you also do a lot of analytical skills, independent skills, thinking skills, fieldwork skills as well. And you can transfer those skills to almost all elements of life to make you a much more informed, analytical person as well.
At UCSI, we talk about preparing students for the future, preparing 21st century students for a global society. See a lot of that in what you're saying in humanities, like they need those thinking skills, those other 21st century skills in order to be successful in the future.
Yeah, there was a debate actually several 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago in some schools in the UK about whether they would make things like history compulsory actually. And I think if you also look at history at GCSE and A-level, in last 10 years, so we've had global studies which kind of looks at all the main historical and geographic events in the world today. So I think people are gradually recognizing it's really important that we understand history, because if you don't understand history, you've no idea why there's conflict today, why there's but also same for geography as well. So it's really important to understand.
And you're doomed to repeat it, right? Otherwise, from history are doomed to repeat it, or whatever the expression is.
Yeah, that is completely true as well. And I think we see that in the world today. All the same mistakes that are being made now were made like 100 years ago, 50 years ago. So I think as humans, we don't often learn from our mistakes. Our countries don't, politicians don't. We often repeat them. That's why history is so important, to learn about not really the past, but plan for the future.
So how is, in year 7 to 9, we follow the secondary British curriculum, but from year 10, it's the IGCSEs. How are the two different?
In both history and geography, students would realize, or they would see, if they chose history and geography at GCSEs, no business studies at obviously key stage 3. But for history and geography at GCSE, there would also be a common thread in terms of some of the similar themes that are studied and some of the topics that are studied as well. So you don't tend to go into the GCSE history and geography. It's not all new. You tend to have quite a strong background in terms of some content, but also some of the skills as well. So when you go into the GCSE, clearly, also the content is a little bit more detailed, but also the skills are more high level, much more and developed as well. So clearly, history obviously is not about writing essays and analysing sources, but clearly at GCSE level, you would obviously be writing more detailed analytical essays. And it moves a little bit away from content and more towards the thinking skills, independent skills, the critical thinking skills, and the analysis skills as well. And both subjects do that as well. So the students would have years 7, 8, 9 gives them a solid background in terms of both content and skills to do very well and prepare them for the GCSE in year 10 and year 11.
Nice. Okay. So in a typical class, let's say history, Would you use more textbooks or more technology, or what kind of learning resources do you like to use?
Yeah, it's a good question. And clearly, it's a difficult question to answer because it depends on the actual topic itself. A good teacher would never just use a textbook, and it wouldn't just, and you also wouldn't do depth by worksheet. We do worksheets all the time as well. What you have to do really is pick and choose what works best for that actual topic itself. So certainly the textbook may be used because it's got excellent, for example, visually excellent sources and posters which are really colourful and clear in the actual textbook. But a lot of time I like to use more interactive learning, maybe using doing things like role play, doing things sometimes historical visits, and even the use of music, film inside the classroom as well, and also information hunts and so on as well, games like Kahoot and so on. So I think it's really a mixture as well.
Yeah.
Clearly, there's going to be a lot of technology used in our school as well, which is great, and that would also be factored into a lot of lessons as well. Even if it's not just for the entire lesson, it may just be for 5 minutes. So I think my approach is you look at the activity and find out which approach works best. Sometimes you may use technology for half a lesson or the entire lesson, or maybe just for a minute or two, or may not be used at all. So it's all about choosing what works best for each activity.
And what about assessments? Are they usually exams or essays or projects or a mix?
It's a mix, of course. I think we do two forms of assessment always: our formative assessment and our summative assessment. So formative assessments where you grade the students continually throughout the term. So you may grade a piece of homework, a project, classwork, or a source, some kind of source analysis as well. So where also your summative tends to be an end of unit test or whatever as well. I like to think, as teachers, we tend to, even sometimes unconsciously, we're continually assessing our students anyway, because we're thinking about, you ask a student a question and you think, their response, maybe they didn't fully understand that. So that's a form like informal assessment, where you're judging, they understand that. Or it's just like a piece of, even a lesson, or something like a role play can even show you what students understand or don't understand. So I think regardless of what piece of work you do, should always be based upon is the student showing progress and understanding, and that's really where our assessment comes in. So it's a mixture of informal and formal, formative and summative assessment. So it's continuous.
Yeah, it sounds like that would be good too for different types of learning styles. It's nice to let students show their learning in different ways sometimes.
Yeah, I think that obviously every student learns in different ways. Some students learn by doing more, and some students actually prefer writing textbooks, essays. Some actually prefer that as well. So the teacher obviously has to find the best way there has to be a mixture of approaches as well. You can't just, it doesn't make sense to assess, you only assess through tests. It makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense. You simply assess through essays, because otherwise some students are not going to, doesn't have a more holistic approach.
So let's say I'm a student who's just signed up for UCSI and I'm probably going to be in your class. What advice would you give to me? Do I need to do any preparation now, or when I get to school, what should I do to be successful?
To be successful, one of the good things about history and geography is that, to an extent, every single lesson is self-contained. To an extent that, so even if a student joined UCSI in March, when the very first lesson, they would still be able to 100% access that lesson itself, even if it missed like 2 months of lessons as well. Now, clearly, lessons still appear in overall content. So, you could be studying the First World War for 2 months. So the student may not understand why the war happened, but the lesson they come into, it may be something like what happened at the Battle of the Somme, or the role of women, or the role of propaganda in the war. So the lessons tend to be self-contained, but of course it's better to have a context, a wider context, to fully understand and appreciate the actual unit itself. with regards to doing well in history or geography, as I said, it never hurts to have a genuine interest in the subject. I often talk to my students, and they ask, well, what can I do? Parents often ask, well, what can we do outside the classroom to let them get better as well? And it's nothing new in terms of, it is things like, you know, so many good documentaries, for example, on history. When you find out a little bit more about the causes of the Second World War, there's lots of History Channel documentaries as well, and you talk to your parents as well. When I was in Russia, for example, when we studied recent history, some of the parents were actually living through the period that we were studying during communism in the 1980s. And sometimes talking to your parents also about history. A lot of the geography is modern geography. So there's so much information out there, such as good videos, good websites, such as BBC Bite-Size as well. For those who just want to take it a little bit further and find out a little bit more information as well. So there's lots of good websites, lots of good notes, lots of good videos, lots of good links that we can give our students as well. But to go back to my first point, every lesson will be fully prepared to achieve the best grade possible in that lesson.
Any general advice for students?
My general advice to everyone is work hard. And I mentioned this last week as well. It's we shouldn't have to tell someone to work hard. When I was at school, there were some subjects I wasn't interested in, but I would still get maybe an A in it. I'd work very hard, because if I had a piece of work that I only put in, it reflects badly on me, and I felt also kind of reflect badly on my family as well. My parents beat, that's not good enough. So I think work hard for everything. It doesn't matter if you enjoy the subject or you find it a little bit difficult, just work hard all the time, do your best, and achieve the best grades possible as well. Just following up from that, another piece of advice, and I mentioned it last week as well, is to appreciate what we have. There are so many wonderful opportunities at this school. There's so many wonderful CCAs, wonderful teachers. You're going to learn lots of new things, use lots of technology, and just appreciate this. It's a lot of students around the world don't have these opportunities. A lot of people don't have opportunities. In fact, a lot of students don't, too poor in some countries. So always realize that don't complain, oh, tonight I got too much homework, or I've got a CC after school. Always appreciate you see everything as an opportunity. If you've learned something in a lesson, that's great. That means you've achieved something as well. So I think those are the two main pieces of advice I would give our students.
Yeah, I agree. And gratitude and attitude is everything sometimes.
Yeah. I remember once I was actually doing a Zoom call. It was on live there, my previous school as well, and they were talking about learning online. What's the difference between learning online and teaching in the classroom? And I was saying that they're talking in general about the COVID-19 experience for teachers. And I was saying, listen, what have you noticed the most or appreciate? And I was like, well, I appreciate a lot more the people in our society who are doing things for us as well, because sometimes we can take things for granted. We can take people at the supermarket or people doing Grab delivery for us as well, or Food Panda. You take them for granted as well, because it's just part of how we go. We're so in our own bubble sometimes, but sometimes say I'm really lucky, and all these other people around me, and I'm going to appreciate them more as well. So yeah, I think that's just really important. We sometimes see the other people around us and appreciate them as well.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we appreciate our viewers. Thank you to anyone watching this video. And that's it for now.
Well,